2020 was a difficult year for airlines and airports right across this country, including here in Winnipeg. Today, we're talking to Winnipeg Airports Authority CEO Barry Rempel about how our international airport was impacted during the pandemic and whether he sees opportunities for growth in 2021. So, Barry, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Let's first talk about the pandemic and how WAA had to shift during the pandemic.
We had to shift, and it was quite a shift. You think back to the beginning of 2020, we actually started 2020 in a period of growth, and we were about to launch an expansion program to deal just with the volume of passengers, particularly that were making themselves part of the scene here. What ended up happening was it didn't take very long, and we realized our world was about to change. The very first thing that we ended up having to look at was how do we keep people safe? And we did a lot of things, including things like putting UV protection on things like the escalator rails. And it was things like making sure that all the HEPA filters, we were fortunate. We have a fairly new terminal building with great ventilation. We confirmed all those sorts of things first. And then we moved into things like the future is going to look like what? Touchless travel. What does that mean? We've experimented. In fact, we've implemented things like automated gates, not just for the boarding, but for the customs area as people are coming through. So there were just a lot of those kinds of things where we look towards what's the future going to be in terms of touchless travel. How do we keep people safe?
When you look ahead to 2021, the rest of 2021, where do you see opportunities for growth?
Well, clearly there's opportunities. It's not tough when you are down 95% to see opportunities for growth. When we look forward, we see travel's going to come back. It's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride. It's going to be a longer road than perhaps what we'd like to see, probably 4 to 5 years. But as the vaccine rolls out, we start to see travel coming back on the passenger side, probably led by the leisure market, because businesses are going to be likely having to find ways to, get their coffers full again before they can start to have a lot of travel. So led by passengers. And when we look at it, we actually see something that has not suffered greatly during the pandemic being an important part, and that's the cargo side.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Are you seeing quite a bit of uptake and growth in there?
Well, the pandemic has probably advanced things around, personal shopping and delivery and how we do those sorts of things. We're seeing a great deal of volume. About 30% of retail now is actually coming by just people, clicking on their computers at home and having it delivered by air. And then right to their doorstep. So that's a significant part of what we're seeing in change.
When you think about the resiliency of the Winnipeg Airports Authority, what do you think was the key to that resiliency?
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind. The key absolutely has been maintaining the focus on our why. Having everybody on the team here understand our why. We're here to serve, and we're here to serve this community by leading transportation innovation and growth. It's pretty simple. And I have no doubt that having everybody on the same page, understanding that we're here to serve, was critical. It's critical when you think about it. We're in an industry where almost all of our revenue, 95% of it, relies on the number of people traveling. 95% of those people weren't here. Yet our expense side, cleaning runways, that doesn't change. So 85% of our costs are fixed, and we clearly have, to bridge that gap.
You and I have talked a lot in the past about your extensive experience in this industry, but others as well, and you've seen quite a bit in your various roles. We've seen reductions in traffic before when it came to 9/11, or after 9/11, and reduced traffic after recessions. If you had to give advice to businesses that are in this situation right now, which is still quite difficult, what would that advice be?
I'd probably have to reflect back just on what we were just talking about, is that it is fundamental to keeping your team inspired, to keeping your team in line, to understand your why. As Simon Sinek kind of famously said years ago, is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. What you do just proves what you believe. So I think maintaining that focus on really understanding your why.
Great advice. Thanks, Barry. If you want to learn a little bit more about the Winnipeg Airports Authority and its operations, or a little bit more about this Investor Insight series, you can go to Economic Development Winnipeg's website.